Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Jay Hollingshed, your personal high performance mindset coach and public speaker. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 168 of 365. And today is Saturday. Saturday's topic is always going to be Saturday's topic is always going to be positive and negative self-talk. Positive and negative self-talk. Okay. And that is going to be our topic because that is pillar number 7. Saturday is always day number 7. Day number 7, we always discuss pillar number 7, which is positive and negative self-talk. Now, what we're going to do right now is thank everybody for tuning in. I got my front row people already. My brother AJ already tuning in. I appreciate you, man. If you're watching this on repeat, thank you so much for the repeat love. I appreciate you as well. This video can be seen in its entirety on my YouTube channel, so feel free to watch it on my YouTube channel. Lisa Chapman Hollingshed, Danella Hicks, everybody tuning in. I appreciate everybody. My front row people tuning in at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much. Now, without further delay, let's go right into episode 168, positive and negative self-talk. Now, just recently, I was on one of my favorite websites, Psychology Today. And while on that website, I came across 4 ways to stop beating up on yourself. In other words, 4 ways to stop submitting to the negative self-talk that comes in your head. So those 4 ways, I'm going to share those with you. I found those to be quite interesting and I read them. I said, look, this is some good information. I'd like to share this with my audience. So here we go. The first of the 4 ways, you have to notice your inner critic. You know what? Let me back up a little bit. I have to give credit where credit is due. This is not my article. Like I said, this is Psychology Today. And this article was written by Dr. Janice Vilhauer. Okay. Now, the first of the 4 methods, the first is notice the critic. You have to notice the critic. In other words, be aware of the self-talk that's coming to you. Especially, you have to understand why you're doing something. The reason why is because you are listening to that self-talk that's pushing you to do something or not do something. Either way, it is the negative self-talk that's coming into you and pushing you towards not doing what you want to do. They're pushing you in the direction of not reaching your goals. They're pushing you away from where you want to be. Okay, you have to recognize that. Also, when you recognize that and when you notice the inner critic, understand that it is only suggestive. It doesn't have a ball and chain on you. It's not forcing you to do anything. Recognize that it is only suggestive. It's like somebody saying, hey, why don't you do this? You have the option to say, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. So your psyche, that's the voice in your head. That is what's giving you the suggestions. Recognize that it is suggestive and you can always say, no, I'm not going to do that. As simple as that. You change your mind. And like a lot of these professional development gurus always say, you change your life by changing your mind. You change your life by changing your mind one decision at a time. So this is one decision in which you can go ahead and say, look, I'm not going to do that. So recognize that your self-talk, when it's giving you negative suggestions or telling you otherwise from what you want to do, just go ahead and say, hey, I'm not going to do that. But we go through life so fast and just trying to do everything and rush that we don't stop and take time to do step number 1 of 4, which is notice the critic. Okay. Step number 2, separate the critic from yourself. Separate the critic from yourself. To do that, you have to understand who the critic is and who you are. The critic is the voice. The voice is your psyche. The psyche that's in your voice in your head, that's your psyche. Understand, your psyche belongs to you. You don't belong to your psyche, okay? Your psyche, you can program your psyche to tell you whatever you want. Your psyche is only a suggestive voice and it comes to you with suggestions, okay? And so you can always say, look, I don't belong to you. I don't have to do what you tell me to do. In fact, you do what I tell you to do because you belong to me. So recognize that, separate yourself from the critic. Your psyche belongs to you. It is a separate voice. It is not who you are or what you are. Your psyche belongs to you. Now, step number 3, talk back. Like I've been saying for the past 2 steps. Tell it, no, I don't want to do it. That's not going to happen. That's not on the agenda. That's not part of my goals. That's not my purpose. And that's not driving me towards what I am put here on this earth to do. So no, I'm not going to do that. Simple as that. And easy. And I am saying the words simple as that because it's simple to say it. But these things are easier said than done. So when you say them slow enough to hear what you're saying, understand what you're saying, and follow through with what you're saying, because your psyche can come and be really strong with these suggestions that it has. Now, so number 3, talk back. And when you talk back, control the conversation. The fact that you're talking back, you're having a conversation. You're having a conversation with a different entity. So you are separate from your psyche. You're having a conversation with your psyche. You are separate from your psyche. You are not your psyche. So understand that you are separate and you can talk back to your psyche. Now, but when you do that, when you do talk back, understand this. You can replace your psyche, which is the critic. Replace the conversation. Replace the voice. How many times have you been in a conversation and someone comes and tries to overpower the conversation, and they are so strong with their with what they are saying, you just kind of back up and say, hey, I'm just going to let them talk and do their thing. That's the perfect example. The perfect example. Why is that the perfect example? Because you can do the same thing to your psyche. Your psyche is only suggestive. That's all it is. And it gives you a suggestion. How many times have you gotten ready to do something? You've made your mind up. You wrote it down as a goal and you anchored it in your head. You said, this is what I'm going to do. And the minute you get ready to take that first step, you go ahead and you inhale, you exhale like, okay, I got this. Let's go do this. And the minute you get ready to go do it, your psyche just stops you in your tracks and whispers in your ear, how many times have you tried this already? And how many times have you been successful in it? Better yet, you have never been successful and you're going to try it and be unsuccessful again. That's what your psyche is going to say. That's how your psyche talks. So you can replace the critic. And that's 4 steps. That's the 4 steps that came in the Psychology Today article. I'm going to add a 5th step. Ignore your psyche. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to talk back. Once you take the first step, which is notice the critic, and take the second step, which is separate yourself from the critic, you can skip 3 and 4 and go to step 5, which is ignore the critic. You don't have to listen to it. You can just keep going and do what you want to do. Do what you plan to do. Go forward with your personal development. Do what's in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, what you've already set out to do. Do what you know you can do. The fact that you've kept going and you tried it over and over and over again. So what, you failed several times. It's just like Thomas Edison when he was trying to invent the light bulb. It is said that he tried 999 times on how to do it. And so he was interviewed, and the interview went like this. How does it feel to have failed 999 times? So, if it failed, if they were asking him, how does it feel to have failed that many times? His reply was, I didn't fail that many times. I found out 999 times, or 999 ways that it doesn't work. And I finally found out the way that it works. So you are in the process of elimination. You are making progress, but you can't make progress if you don't make a step. And your critic is there. Your psyche is there. That negative self-talk is there to keep you from making a step. It's trying to prevent you from taking a step. When you take a step, that's progress, whether you realize it or not. You're taking a step because each step you take has educational value. You learn from that and you learn how to move forward more progressively. You learn how to move forward in a progressive manner, but you learn how to do that in a more educated way because you've just learned something. So your next step will be better than your last step. So if you've taken 10 steps and you failed 10 times, your 11th step will be 10 times better than your first step. So take the step. Ignore that inner critic, okay? And it's been statistically proven that all of your self-talk, out of all your self-talk, it is 85% negative. So what you want to do is ignore that self-talk. Let's run down those 4 views again. Like I said, this is from Psychology Today. And the first step in stop beating up on yourself is to notice the inner critic. Step 2, separate yourself from the critic. Step 3, you can talk back to the critic. Step 4, replace the critic. And personally, I'm adding a 5th step. Step 5, you can ignore the critic. When you ignore the critic, you separate yourself, or you keep from feeding energy to the conversation with the critic. You keep the energy to yourself, and you stop feeding energy to the critic. When you stop feeding energy to it, the voice is going to die for that conversation. Not period, but the voice is going to die for that particular conversation. So you can do that. Keep those in mind. And when you keep those in mind, you will be able to make a step. That's all you need to do is make one step. Life is one step at a time. Don't worry about step 3, 4, and 5. Just take one step. That's all you do is take one. When you get through with that one, take one more. When you get through with that one, you're going to analyze, you're going to assess, you're going to take the lesson, you're going to pull it, and you're going to apply it to yourself, and you're going to apply the lesson to the next step. So take one more step. It's always one step. So keep taking those one steps. Okay? That's all I have for today in my episode of 7 Pillars of Mental Performance. This is episode number 168. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening. And thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Be well, stay blessed, and as always, through love, be a blessing. God bless.